Let's bring in our guest, man. We got a fun guest today, and he's got a sick background, by the way. I think our producer is probably freaking out.
Hey,
Josh, what is happening, man? Welcome to the
show. Hello. Good to be here. Yeah, this is not just a virtual background. This is a real background.
Welcome to the show. It's pretty funny because Josh yesterday or the day before, when we were confirming the time, was saying, I'm not going to have a pretty background. And I'm looking at your background right now. I'm like, I don't know if we had a prettier background than this before. So,
believe it or not, we're music guys over here too, Josh. So it's always when we see this, and our producer is a big guitar player. So our guy who sends out all the schedules and makes the broadcast happen. I guarantee he's loving this. So I'm sure you guys can talk about it after the show.
Before we became co-workers with that guy, the main form of messaging he was doing with me was he would just play some of the metal songs I like, and he would send me those videos. Like that was the main thing that he was doing. So he's definitely freaking out. Well, welcome to the show, Josh. Great to have you, man. Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Ooh, someone in the chat has some Ibanez guitars too. It looks like you have a bass up there too. Is that what's going on?
I've got a room full of instruments here. If I could swing the camera around, you'd see a drum set, some other beat making devices.
Wow!
I love every
full-blown producer, huh? Music. Ah, that's very cool.
Oh, sorry about my pit stains there. See, same deal. There's a kinship here. So anyway, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you.
Thanks.
We always like to kind of start off with like a little bit of background from our guests. You know what I mean? And this is your first time on the show, so maybe you could tell us like how you got into crypto, how Blizzard happened, what you do at Blizzard, and we can go from there. I'm sure our chat would love to hear it, man.
Sure. I'll start with kind of how I got into crypto and how I ended up where I am now. My career has definitely not been a straight line. It has certainly oscillated between being an entrepreneur and being an investor or advisor. And I've been co-founder of 4 startups, one that exited through an IPO, 2 that were acquired, and 1 that flamed out in about 4 months. So I've seen all the different kind of levels or potential levels of entrepreneurial success. But broadly speaking, my career is focused on fintech. And for more than 20 years, I've worked at or consulted to many of the largest global financial institutions. I've worked on high-profile M&A transactions and corporate venturing, and of course, launched startups focused on everything from open-source software to blockchain to even AI technology. I have been crypto curious since about 2013 when I first started reading about it, much more as a curiosity and not necessarily a place for investment. But ultimately took a class through MIT on the future of fintech in 2015. And what was interesting is about 80% of the content of that class was really focused on blockchain. And that kind of indicated to me that I knew this was something that was going to be important if they were spending this much time, this much focus in a fintech class on just blockchain. So among a few other activities, I started a block producer that helped launch the EOS blockchain. It was quite a stretch to figure out how to create a business around this. Being an MBA type, I was like, okay, so who are the customers? And there aren't really customers. Like you just kind of magically produce, and this money shows up in your accounts, and you have to figure out how to do it to maximize your use as a node or as a block producer. So it challenged a lot of just starting this business challenged a lot of my fundamental assumptions about how businesses should operate. And that company began a pivot to the, at the time, emerging and still poorly defined DeFi sector in 2019. And our company was soon after acquired. The acquirer moved our core team to the Cayman Islands. The company needed more economic substance there. And I've been based in Cayman, where there's a thriving crypto scene, and it's a great place to be. So that's kind of how I got into crypto.
Amazing. And like you travel between like New York, the head office, and then Caymans, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, I'm back and forth.
Listen, I think everybody in crypto kind of wants to be you at one point. So congratulations on that. That's what I'm gonna say. But Yeah. If you don't mind, give us a little bit about Blizzard. Obviously, Blizzard came to be a year or two ago. Obviously, Kate, made a big splash. But I don't think anybody in the market truly knows the official mandate and how it came to be. If you can give us a little bit of that story as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, so Blizzard was formed in November 2021. And in a sense, we're a traditional venture fund with outside investors, including Polychain and Republic. In another sense, we're an unusual hybrid between a traditional venture fund and corporate venture capital, in that we're directed to focus on investing to promote growth and innovation on the Avalanche blockchain. So we're really an ecosystem fund, but we're sort of a traditional fund at the same time.
Perfect. And I think, that's kind of like the perfect intersection between growing crypto while managing investments in a way that's kind of similar to how a traditional venture fund would do, right? Because we saw a lot of like VCs that appeared and disappeared throughout the cycles. And I think one of the main things is because you have to bring in the same type of risk management and long-term focus rather than, oh, these are tokens, we can do whatever with them. So, but anyways, obviously, just to highlight this as well, Blizzard is an investor in the Dexalot project. So we appreciate all the support and all the help you guys have provided, you as well as the rest of your team. I don't know if everybody noticed, there is the Dexter in the background.
Right next to the
I just want to
Blizzard.
point that out. Right there. Yes.
We got the Blizzard thermos and Dexter hanging out. This is great. I saw that great too. I was like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, needless to say, you guys have been supporting us for a very long time. We appreciate it. You guys are the key player without which we probably wouldn't be here. So, thank you for that, to say the least.
Thank you for the great innovation you guys are bringing. Everything from being early subnet adopters to the great tech that you're building.
Absolutely. And another cool piece of tech is about to come out. I'll talk about that later. But let me switch gears. Obviously, 2023, and I'm going to say probably starting the Q2 of 2022. Since then, it's been quite difficult. And you were recently in Barcelona. Do you mind just giving us your recap of the Barcelona Avalanche Summit 2 events? We talked about it a couple times, but we'd love to hear your perspective as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, it had a fantastic time, and not just because you and I got to hang out for a little bit, but the events team that puts it together does such a great job of assembling a conference that has a unique feel. First of all, there's the location. Love Barcelona, always have. Great global destination for people to come in from all over the world. Additionally, it was not the usual standing around at corporate booths. You get the opportunity to really explore multiple venues and walk around the Poble Espanyol. From my point of view, I was able to connect with so many solid teams. Both portfolio companies, people that we've already invested in, as well as new ventures and new things that are going on. So it was great, but an exhausting 3 days as I wanted to talk to so many, and just had to kind of walk around and try to just have constant conversations in between the panels and in between the events that were there.
And I gotta say, Barcelona is one of those tricky locations where the city, the scene, the food, all that stuff is so great that you're constantly being pulled between the conference, the business connections that you're making, as well as, no, I'm not going to eat random food. I'm going to go find some good place and then have like some awesome tapas or awesome whatever. Tell us a little bit about I already know because we spoke about this, but you're a big food research and foodie. You're a real foodie. So what was the best experience you had in Barcelona in terms of food, not the business side?
I research a lot before I go anywhere in terms of places that I have to see, types of food that I have to try, and places to visit. So I guess first of all, while I was there, I rented a kick scooter, like a motorized kick scooter, and I was able to get around the city using that, which was a ton of fun. Great way to learn the city streets themselves. And by the end of the week or so that I was there, really felt like I had a grasp on where to go and how to get around. But my culinary adventures I was focused on finding great examples of two kinds of food. The first one was fidua, which is like traditional tapas, traditional paella, yes. But instead of rice, they use kind of shortcut noodles, but same preparation that you would do for paella. And found some great places for that. Had it more than once because, of course, you need to do that. And then the second area that I was kind of looking for was Spanish vermouth, which is different than Italian vermouth or other types of vermouth that you may be familiar with, and is generally brewed in-house. Brewed is probably not the right word. Developed, fermented,
distilled, or whatever, fermented.
Yeah, distilled. In-house at a number of places, so everybody has kind of their own with like barrels on the wall. Wow. And I came armed with a list of 8 places to try vermouth, and I did not hit all 8, but I did hit quite a few. Typically served with traditional tapas, and
and then have a little vermouth.
Great time.
Yeah, so I have to say, and this has become like a thing that we talk about at least once or twice a week. So myself, Josh, and a couple of others actually went with Josh, knowing his research. Josh recommended this restaurant. We went to this restaurant and we had exactly what he described. The paella, except instead of rice, they did noodles. And the kind that we had, actually, the noodles were not fried, but they were slightly crispy. They cooked it to the point where it was noodles, it was noodles, but it had that tiny, tiny bit of crisp to it. And it was the most amazing food we had in Barcelona. Like, it was the best meal we had. And, my friend Jem, who was with us that day as well, he's constantly talking about it. And quite honestly, the kind of food that I can get at the restaurants here, while it's not terrible, it's not comparable. And every time he says it, you get this weird craving. I'm like, I should go back. I should figure out where I can have it. And we looked, and you can't really get that here, unfortunately. But anyways,
these shows are killing me. I got to tell you guys, because because I didn't go to the summit, and every time we talk about the summit, everybody's we did, and it's the most amazing experience I've. Listen, I'm going to be there next year, everybody. All right,
yes,
I got to go now.
You need to be.
These are killing me every time we have these conversations. I'm like,
and do not try anything other than what Josh says. If Josh says instead of Simon says, you got to do what Josh says in terms of going out and eating wherever he says. So I have done it, confirmed by data, guys.
Look for my email in late April 2024, Josh.
I'll publish these
looking for recommendations.
So going back to the Avalanche and the summit, of course, in terms of like. You mentioned you connected with a lot of solid projects. Can you point to any of the verticals that you think is the near-term winner in terms of investment, both not just money, I'm talking human investment, time investment, and I guess what do you think it would take for the ecosystem, Avalanche as well as Web3 overall, to grow to like a traditional asset size market?
Yeah, I think those things kind of go hand in hand in what we're seeing and where kind of investment focus is. And I think it's a lot more recently towards capital markets and institutional finance, where we're seeing some real world assets as well, where we're seeing some real innovation, people building infrastructure pieces for those industries that will it is bigger than crypto or Web3 in itself. It's really like core technology and infrastructure, and met with a number of teams that are building great things there, and technologies that can be applied to those kind of in traditional finance or B2B finance, if you will. I kind of mentioned that we kind of went through initially a crypto phase of investing, where everybody was really focused on what can we do with crypto. Then kind of entered into a focus on Web3. What can we do with these communities of ownership and things that were focused there. And now we're sort of moving into a bit of the I don't have the right name for it, but the abstraction phase, where it's just the technology in the background, and people are using this great blockchain technology to just enable great apps. And the users don't as much have to know what they're using in the background, the same way that when I log into my Citibank account, I don't need to know if they're using Sybase or Oracle in the background.
Sure.
It doesn't matter to me as a user. And I think we're seeing that more with some great technologies that are being built now. They will be in the background. They are leveraging blockchain, but they're kind of transparent to the user or abstracted away.
Yeah, I mean, fully agreed. Like one of the more recent things that happened, particularly on the Avalanche blockchain, because I think, they just launched natively on Avalanche, was the launch of EuroC, right? Obviously, the main stablecoin that is, main stable coins in Web3 are denominated by dollars, right? They're ultimately something that represents or tries to be equal to the value of a dollar. And now we're seeing the euro, the second largest currency, coming to the market. And, I was talking about this in our Twitter space with Circle. Like, they are building infrastructure. Basically, they're building this settlement layer for all businesses out there. I worked for a bunch of banks, and at Friday, 5 p.m., you shut your systems off, your servers turn off, and you go home, right? But businesses need to operate. Amazon still sells merchandise, travels, sites still sell travel tickets, and those prices are, being picked when there is no market, right? And settlement isn't happening for a few days, which is creating a lot of additional technology bloat for all of these companies. I almost want to say, like, these types of solutions, the Dexalots of the world, the Circles of the world, and various other things are now allowing instantaneous and continuous settlement that never goes down. And it's really going to improve our lives, and we're not going to know how they work in reality, right? It's kind of like the credit cards. Like, think about it. In the past, if you didn't carry cash, you had to go home and get your cash, or you had to go to the bank and get your cash. Then came the credit cards, you swipe, and you're done. Now you don't even need a credit card. You touch your phone, and now you're done, right? I almost want to say we're at the cusp of that instantaneous and continuous settlement wave that's going to push existing businesses forward. That's kind of how I look at this.
Yeah, and Firestorm, you used to work in FX markets.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Are you optimistic about those markets really becoming round the clock? And
no, absolutely. The story that I always remember is one of the businesses I was responsible for was basically selling, or rather pricing, travel companies that sold, tours or various things to the end users. And the funny thing is, most of the end users, most of the people like you and me, we look at vacation stuff over the weekend, right? So these guys needed a conversion rate from euro to dollar or dollar to euro over the weekend when there's no market. What that means as a risk business that we have to do is we have to look at average weekend movements, try to predict how much, the price may move, because I can't take that risk and I can't hedge it over the weekend. I'm not even at my desk, right? And our solution had to sort of add more pricing around to manage that uncertainty. And really, that uncertainty only exists because the traditional finance systems used to be manual, and we adapted those manual systems to the traditional work week. When in reality, if you have continuously settled markets that are continuously liquid, it's better thing for the end user because the prices are going to be tighter. There's going to be no uncertainty because the markets will be liquid, because the price providers will be able to hedge them. So I'm extremely optimistic. This is just one example, right? Another example is, back-end services. You have no idea how many people are behind a single FX trade, because you do an FX trade that actually settles on average, depending on the currency, obviously, 2 days later. And until that settlement happens, a lot of other trades come in. So you're like accumulating this trade balances that you have to settle next. If you could settle everything instantaneously, you never build this bloat, and your operations are a lot more efficient. You would have, a lot less of a operation, in my opinion, and things would work better. Everything would cost cheaper, etc. So I'm super optimistic. The challenge, of course, and I think, I don't know how much you keep up. Quite honestly, there was some news I didn't even check today myself, but, the regulatory landscape is not quite there yet. But, I'm waiting for that to happen. I think that is one of those things that we need for the market to 10x. Like, what's your view on, obviously the macro market is impossible to predict, but what are the things that you see missing completely? Obviously we have great innovators, but just innovation isn't the way to bring in the institutional capital, etc. What are the concrete things that you can point to that you think is missing from our ecosystem for the moment?
I think that the story as a whole is as old as financial innovation going back centuries. There's kind of a big rush, then things settle, and then there'll be some real businesses and real technology and real innovations that come out of the period. And many of those companies, many of those things are still being built now, despite the broader market. The next economic cycle, you'll see a lot of these really get demand, get users. Like I was mentioning before, the kind of abstraction of what's being used underneath. That's really the technology will grow tremendously. It will 10x the usage, but we may not even know that that's what's being used in the background because it's so seamless and so part of it.
So I guess, is it fair to say more usage of the blockchain piece of technology within our traditionally used products, whether it's paying for our groceries or whether it's what's another good example? Tickets, paying for tickets to concerts, or sending money to each other. I guess is that like you're basically looking at how much is blockchain as a technology being adopted?
Yes.
Is that a good paraphrase?
Yep. Okay. And from my investment point of view, how much of it's using Avalanche?
Of course. Nice. Of course. But quite honestly, I mean,
we are seeing some great strides with
absolutely
the technology, the operations of the blockchain itself are just fantastic and proving that it's a really great place to build some of this innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Brian Johnson from Republic was here a couple times actually.
Yep.
And the typical thing he says is, if you're a game and you're looking to adopt a blockchain solution to run your game on, if you're not doing Avalanche, to me, this is his words, I'm paraphrasing, of course, that to me means you probably don't understand blockchains in terms of gaming context, right? Yeah. We see a lot of games building particularly on Avalanche. So changing gears a little bit again, obviously you are the ecosystem fund. This is more for our audience, obviously we've gone through the process, but for a promising startup and a promising team, what would you want those guys to have done before they approach you, right? Obviously, the markets are tough. Like, what is the minimum that you would recommend people to actually achieve before coming to you to present their solutions?
First thing is really more than an idea. You need to have started to operationalize, started to build something. We don't invest in something at the concept stage. There needs to be some development. Ideally, I would love to see some sort of minimally viable product pushing its first dollar, even if it's $1, through the whole process, so that you have an appreciation of what it takes. And really what you're coming to us for is help to grow the business and to make the change that are necessary to turn it into something that's huge. Second thing is really a team, kind of a fully formed team, at least the founders. In general, it's almost impossible to build a business as a team of one. So you likely need a co-founder. You likely need your initial team members to kind of be in place and to show that you can work as a team together. And then broadly speaking, looking for that spark, that cool idea, that's something special. Not every business is appropriate for venture investment. There are some great businesses that can be built without venture capital. There are many small businesses that are fantastic, but just don't warrant the type of venture returns or venture investment that we're looking for.
Makes sense. And I have very strong opinions about pitfalls. I'm not going to say it before, you as the actual person who does this for a living say it, but what are the big pitfalls that you see? Obviously, you've seen more projects than any one of us here combined. What are the biggest issues that you commonly see? I think it would help people to hear that as well, I think.
Sometimes, I was talking about people just a moment ago, sometimes people don't get along on teams. And there can be people problems, or a founder who's no longer contributing, but still maintains some ownership in the company.
Sure.
That was poorly structured from the start. Another thing is kind of not learning. So you want to see the whole process, and you're whatever your first idea is that you're working on, it's not going to be the same as what hits market. So need to be able to listen to feedback, to listen to the market, because it'll constantly be changing, and adapt to that. So people who are unable to adapt or unable to connect with their founding team, those are definitely red flags.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
I was just going to ask one last question before I hand it back to Jimmy. One of the biggest topics, and I think it is important for people to hear this from you as well, in 2022, like we saw so many exchanges disappear, so many companies go bust. I know you, as well as the rest of the Blizzard and Avalanche teams, talked about treasury management and what are the big things that people need to be careful about. Do you have any pointers for up and coming projects in terms of, just managing the funds and managing their runway, particularly given that we don't really know when the bear is going to end, etc.?
Yeah. So we publish to all of our portfolio companies and to anyone else who asks some kind of guidelines on managing treasury. And in general, it lays down a couple of rules around conservatism. You should not be taking this money and gambling it. You should not be investing this except in very safe investments, traditional safe investments. Second piece of that treasury management. So the first was conservatism. The second was diversity. Make sure that you don't have all your eggs in one basket, and you should be able to move between those items regularly and kind of test those connections, as some of those can disappear overnight, whether it be the connection or the financial institution. So you need to have some diversity there, and this is a hard thing to do, by the way, to set this up properly.
Onboarding to exchanges, for example, for just purely financial operations is super difficult because of the regulatory uncertainty. Every exchange is so afraid, right? Or every financial services provider, whether it's bank, etc., are so afraid. So don't procrastinate, right? Make sure you have multiple relationships in terms of being able to pay your employees, your vendors, and being able to accept investments, right? Very important, guys.
Yep. And I think the third principle around that was control, and making sure that not one person is managing everything or has control to do things. That there's multi-sigs if they're possible, in sending out funds, and proper management and controls over that. Yep. So those were some areas around treasury management that just some principles that kind of help to manage through a lot of this risk. And remind me, what was the second part of the question?
No, I mean, this was the general question, because a lot of people are now super concerned about the market. And I think these guidelines from folks who have built companies is extremely important. You don't know how long the bear is going to last. Right. You want to manage your costs, and you want to manage your risks, right? You may have the best, most beautiful, most amazing product in the world, but if you lose all of your funds tomorrow, not only you won't be able to, continue keeping your team, but also the FUD will destroy everything you built so far, right? Like it's a double whammy. So, risk management, I think, is what I would say has been lacking a lot in crypto. I mean, bull markets always make that appear, right? People get super excited, and everybody thinks the music is going to last forever. And until I think, Web3 and crypto particularly becomes like a comparable asset class to the other big boys, I think we're going to have these cycles. And anybody who manages these cycles successfully and has a good product is actually going to succeed. That's kind of how I construct the success formula in my head.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it comes down to in many industries, man. You know what I mean? The people that are really building a good product at the end of the day are going to win.
Being able to stay consistent during the bull and the bear. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Man, you guys are dropping so much knowledge right now. This is like the new project, like cheat sheet almost, it feels like. You know what I mean? Like, this is key, guys. So tell all your friends with new projects. They need to come back and watch this replay. Josh, I wanted to just ask you. I got a couple maybe non-finance, non-crypto related questions really quick because I see the guitars, man, and I'm just like, so who's your favorite guitarist? Would you say? I'm going to totally shift the subject here.
It's hard to pick.
I know I'm putting you on the spot. I apologize.
Yeah. And I know these are kind of cheesy answers, but I'll say two. One is Eddie Van Halen.
He's amazing.
Not just because of like the technical ability, but just how at ease he always looked. Like he'd be like looking off in another direction and just completely playing and relaxed and really enjoying it. And that's what I strive to, is just that level of relaxation while I'm doing something like that.
Dude, absolutely.
And then I also, on the other end of the spectrum, but not necessarily a different genre, Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day. It's all chords. He doesn't, do anything funky or fancy or tap like Eddie Van Halen, but just good melodic chord playing.
I love it, man. I love it. That's Eddie Van Halen. It's funny because when I was growing up, I didn't play the guitar. I played the piano, right? And I wanted to play the guitar, but my parents were like, "No, you're getting piano lessons." So I'm like, "All right, whatever." But I remember it was a great day when the piano teacher taught me how to play Jump, the chords from Jump, because I had the setting on my little keyboard that sounded exactly like the plugin that they used for that song.
Yep.
So I still remember all the chords to this day. I could play it right now if I wanted to. That's one of the only songs I still remember, though. But with that being said, we got to have you come back to the show, because this is another one of these where we've been talking for an hour, feels like 10 minutes. So we need you to come back, and we'd love to pick your brain again if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely. Anything about venture finance or ventures in general, and as well as music.
That's what I'm saying.
Good combo here.
Perfect. Love it. So that leads me to my final question for you, and it's music related again. I always like to play a little bit of music at the end of the show, and I always get a request from our guests, and it doesn't matter the genre. It doesn't, whatever you're feeling, whatever you want to hear. I'm just a music lover. I'm a lover of all musics. And I just, and I'll mix in whatever, you know what I mean? I'm just, I came from a DJing background, hip hop and club music and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just a lover of music. So I will fit in whatever you're looking for.
So I was nervous about being potentially asked this question, as I can never narrow it down. I'll tell you two really quick stories or pieces of my background.
Please.
And name two songs, and whichever one you can find, I'll
Perfect. And it does look like the chat has a question for you too before you go. So hold that thought, but please continue with your request.
Sure. So the first, I'm originally from the Washington, D.C. area, and was, despite my formal finance looks right now, was a part of the D.C. punk scene for quite a while, and loved being a part of that. So one of the best examples from that is the band Fugazi.
Oh yeah,
that was part of the scene, and particularly their song "Waiting Room."
Okay.
Which has this like machine-like bass groove.
Yeah.
There's a real groove to it. And these like explosions of open chord energy, the same way I was talking about like Billy Joel just hitting open chords, and it seriously brings me energy. And then that's one area. And then the other one I wanted to think about was, if you can't find that easily, I used to be a concert producer, amongst my other strange elements of my background, and produced over 25 live events, including B.B. King, Dave Brubeck, Billy Joel, Tribe Called Quest, much more. So my musical tastes now kind of tend towards rock, but I also enjoy just either pure focus or dance, electronica. And one song that always puts me in a great mood, just Boom Ba-Ya by Blackpink.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I don't know that one off the top of my head, but dude, I mean, you're speaking my language. I come from an event production background too. our CMO and I know each other from way back in the day, throwing events. That's initially how we met. So I get it. It's a different world, and I was actually in the radio world too. So I've been floating around the music industry for a long time, and then I changed over to crypto. So I get it, man. We're a lot of kindred spirits in this space that started off doing one thing, and we ended up here. So I love it, man. So I will definitely. I think we can probably play both of those, depending on if our producer can get. I'll probably have the Fugazi one. Shout out to Ian. Always love. I was into punk and stuff when I was a kid too, so I totally get it. Looks like we got both your requests, so I'm gonna get it popping for you. But it looks like Beast Lorian in the chat does have a question. Let me see if we can get that on screen for us here before you bounce.
Sure.
He says, I'm a big investor in Avalanche, and I wonder if you have a perspective on what needs to happen for the next big growth of users on both platforms. Maybe you're just waiting for new subnets to launch or liquidity to return. Is there something else you'd like to see?
On the Avalanche front, I'll talk about just a lot of optimism and things that are happening, great things that are being built, new subnets, new applications for subnets. And there is a lot of exciting stuff that's coming that will help explode this. And along with that, there will likely be a lot more activity and a lot more need for platforms like Dexalot to be able to trade between the utility of those tokens on those things. So there's a lot, really just a lot of great, exciting stuff that's coming. We as a fund have done over 130 investments, and not every, most of the things that we invest in are, not built overnight. They take a little while, and I can tell you there's some just really exciting stuff coming. So
and I guess one thing I just want to ask at the back, 130 plus investments, but how many different projects that are being built you think you have talked to? I don't know if you have a full number, but is that like in the thousands easily, or like what is it? Easily, right? I imagine.
Easily in the thousands. And we work a lot with the Ava Labs business development team,
of course,
to help identify those. They're the guys that really know a lot of what's going on in the entire community, in the whole ecosystem. And we see only a fraction of those, and we've seen easily over 1,000.
Awesome.
Amazing.
That's what's up. Well, Josh, this has been awesome, man. Like, we love it when someone can come in and talk Dexalot and Avalanche and Blizzard, and then talk about our favorite musicians on top of it, man. It's a great vibe. So that's why we do things here on In the CLOB. We try to do a little something different. You know what I mean? So
thanks, man. Really enjoyed being here. Thank you.
Yeah, man. We'd love to have you back. And yeah, thanks so much for being here, Josh. Hope you have a great week. That's Josh Hecht from Blizzard Fund, everybody. Chat, thank you.